Or are we going to the White Club Theater?
Ladies and gentlemen, if able, please stand for the advancing of the colors and our national anthem. Honor Guard, post the colors. Please be seated. I am Brian Liga, the Trumbull County Commander and a member of the Hutchins-Stendal Post 191 of Whitehall, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies. Please welcome Whitehall School District Superintendent Mr. Bagley for his opening remarks.
Well, thanks, Brian. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being here with us today as we both celebrate and recognize veterans for all that they have done and are doing for our country. In all honesty, we have more than our fair share of good days around here, but this one's special to me. Far beyond all the sound bites and rhetoric that seem to blur our reality on a daily basis, today is an opportunity to return to our basic fundamental ideals and focus on what we have been given by those who have served. To our guests, we hope you feel welcome and enjoy your day here today. To our students, I know you'll fully engage and focus on the deep meaning of Veterans Day. Even though it may not seem like it sometimes, we have so much to be thankful for. We've been given so many rights and freedoms that it's sometimes easy to take them for granted or forget that they have been paid for with service in battle, both those that we can see and those that remain unseen. We must remember that these opportunities must be defended and should be honored each and every day. We must also remember that in order to be worthy of our rights and freedoms, we must continue to demonstrate the responsibility that comes with them. Without this collective responsibility to one another, it's not hard to see what might happen. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you to our veterans, those here today and those unable to be with us. This is a great day to be thankful for, and I know I am. I'll now welcome Mr. Lisowski to the podium and he'll share a few thoughts with you. Mr. Lisowski?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and honored veterans. Today we gather to express our profound gratitude and appreciation for the brave men and women who have served our country with unwavering dedication and sacrifice. Today we come together as a community to honor the selfless commitment to our veterans, recognizing their courage, resilience, and the invaluable contributions that they have made to safeguard the freedoms that we hold dear. As we reflect on the sacrifices made by these heroes, let us also acknowledge the enduring spirit that defines our veterans. Their service extends beyond the battlefield, shaping the fabric of our nation and inspiring generations to come. In the spirit of unity and gratitude, let us pay tribute to the veterans in our midst and those who could not be with us today. May this event serve as a small token of our immense appreciation for their service and a reminder of the debt of gratitude that we owe to those who have defended our liberty. Thank you all for joining us in honoring our veterans on this meaningful occasion. I would also like to take a moment to thank Mr. Jurish and Mr. Giese for organizing this event. It certainly is worthy of paying tribute to the great men and women that are here with us today. So thank you to you, gentlemen. All right, at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce someone that many of you already know, Mr. Brian Liga. Mr. Liga is a veteran of the United States Air Force, retiring as a senior master sergeant. He served our citizens for 27 years and participated in the Gulf Wars and Operation Provide Comfort and Operation New Dawn. Mr. Liga.
Welcome to the 2023 Whitehall School District Veterans Ceremony. Happy Veterans Day, veterans. I'd like to give a shout out to the Marines. Happy birthday, Marine Corps. Ooh, I don't know how many years it is, but it's a lot. And I'm proud that they serve with us every day. Right, Jerry? Who is a veteran? They can be male, they can be female, they can be young, they can be old. They can serve stateside or overseas, and some have even served in outer space. They have raised their hand to serve if war is needed. And those serving this very day. These people are veterans. A veteran is someone who served in the military. We have had veterans since 1776 in our nation. But they haven't been officially recognized veterans until after World War I, when they were officially proclaimed by Congress and our president in 1919. World War I, known as at the time as the First World War or the Great War, was a global war originating in Europe that lasted from 28 July 1914 to 11 November 1918. The Great War officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919 in France. However, fighting ceased 7 months earlier when the armistice or temporary ceasefire between the Allied nations and Germany went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For that reason, November 11th, 1918 is generally regarded as the end of the war to end all wars. In November 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day. Originally, the celebration was for the day that was observed by parades and public meetings and a brief suspension of business beginning at 11 a.m. Armistice Day was primarily a day set aside to honor veterans of World War I. But in 1954, the 83rd Congress, at the urging of the Veterans Service Organization, amended the Act of 1938 by striking the word armistice and inserting in its place the word veterans. With the approval of legislation on June 1st, 1954, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. The American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary is dedicated to strengthening America. We believe there is no better way to accomplish this task than to work with our nation's youth to prepare them for what lies ahead. The American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary, through the Youth Activities Program, plays a leading role in development of tomorrow's informed, responsible citizens. Programs such as Badger Boys State, Badger Boys Nation, and Badger Girls State are our finest examples of citizen instruction for youth. Here are the 2023 Badger State Boys and Girls graduates: Titus Buell, Kelly Larson, Brady Johnson, and Tiana Beck. Please come forward.
If able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to have all auxiliary members please stand if able and be recognized.
At this time, we'd like to have all veterans stand if able and be recognized. You may be seated. Thank you.
We'll now hear from the band, the marches of the Armed Forces led by Stuart Neal. Veterans, as you hear your branch's song, stand up so that we can see the different branches in attendance. I'll give the band a couple minutes to get set up, and then I'll let you know what they're going to sing. We will now enjoy the classic America the Beautiful from the high school choir led by Krista Kolstead and accompanied by Richard Stack. In the song, you will be treated by a duet by Mason Bouch and Dalton Conkle and Avia Herman and Kelsey Klumstein. Sit back and enjoy. this year's speaker, was born and raised in Pigeon Falls. Later in life, he moved to a farm just outside of Whitehall. Married and had 3 boys, his farming career currently counts up to 68 years. Before his farming career, he was a soldier, the United States 530th Engineering Battalion from 1953 to 1955. He was a heavy equipment operator in Point Barrow, Alaska, building airstrips to support construction of the DEW line, or the Distant Early Warning Line, a Cold War radar installation stretching along the Arctic Circle created to detect incoming nuclear bombers of the Soviet Union during the Cold War. He was also a former commander of the Hutchinson-Stendal Post 191 for over a decade. Please welcome Ken Giese.
Thank you, Mr. Liga. He asked me at one time if I had a story to tell, and I said no. And the more I thought about it, I said, well, if I don't tell it now, when? So here goes. I guess I'm sort of dating myself, but I graduated from a one-room country school in 1947. We had four 8th grade graduates that year, and I was number 4, so you can see where I stood in the standings. But anyway, I graduated from Whitehall High in 1951, and we had, and at that time, of course, they were having some trouble over in Korea, and the Russians and the communists were starting to take over, and the U.S. said no, and well, anyway, in 1950, President Truman reenacted the mandatory draft that had been elapsed from World War II. Well, anyway, we had, so actually we didn't have much choice, in 52 or 53, the Selective Service Board was watching us every move. But anyway, we had 27 boys in our senior class in 1951. We graduated 51 and 51. That's how I can remember that. But anyway, we had 27 boys, and between the years of 1952 and 1954, 24 of those 27 served in the U.S. military, which I think is pretty amazing. All that were eligible, you were either enlisted in one of the, one of the services, or you waited for the draft board to send you a letter. But anyway, I had been from the farm. I had a agriculture deferment for a while, and then I thought, well, that didn't seem right. So I went down to the Selective Service Draft Board here at the courthouse and volunteered. And in 2 months, I was on a bus to Minneapolis for induction. So you see how fast that went. But anyway, we went to Fort Lewis, Missouri for basic training, which a lot of people do from this area. And after 8 weeks, we were they scattered. Of course, you went to different bases. And I happened to stay at Fort Leonard Wood. They enrolled me in the heavy equipment school, and so I was there for 8 more weeks. And we had training in every piece of heavy equipment you could think of, from crawler cranes to truck-mounted cranes to D7 cats, dozers, and trucks, 6x6, Buse and a half. You guys know what they are, and Jeep for 3/4 ton. And we even had a rock crusher. But anyway, I graduated from there on 23rd of December. And we had 30 in our class. That was the limit. And we had no KP, no guard duty. We were just there to learn something. And so we had hands-on at all that equipment. So at the end of the 8 weeks, I was authorized to drive and operate every piece of equipment that was in the motor pool. And like I say, out of the 30 people, 28 of them were shipped to Korea from there. I was fortunate, I and one other fellow, I was sent to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and my other fellow went to some depot in Ohio. But anyway, we spent Christmas Eve and pretty much all the Christmas Day that year waiting for a train. Sat in the train depot in St. Louis, Missouri, waiting for the train to go to Louisville, Kentucky. Of course, we always traveled by train back then. So we were there. I was assigned to the 553rd Engineer Group, and we were a construction company, and we were located next to, we had the old two-story World War II barracks, of course, and we were located next to the 553rd Combat Engineers, and that was another group. We would, being in the construction group, we'd go out and put up some temporary buildings and so forth, or maybe build some approaches to some buildings, and those combat engineers could come along and blow it up, on their maneuvers. So next week we'd do the same thing over again. But I was there about 3 months. Sort of lived out of my duffel bag, and then I got orders to report to Fort Eustis, Virginia, and for some crane training to unload. We didn't know it at the time, but we were trained to unload ships. We sat up there in the cage with the crane operator, and we had 4 assistants, and we'd pick up whatever the cargo would be down in the hold and transport it across the pier and down into another hold, and everything was done by hand signals. The guy there down, and we never knew we were hooked up till it come up out of the hold, and then we were there a couple of 2 months, I believe it was, and then we were then they said, "Are you ready to go to Korea?" We got all our shots, and I think we got some shots we probably didn't need, and then they gave us 3 months advance pay, and that changed about what in the world was going on there. But anyway, of course, $82 a month. We weren't talking an awful lot of money either. But anyway, we got 3 months advance pay, and then we were put on a Army troop train. We headed for Fort Lewis, Washington. That was a 4-day trip. And of course, it wasn't no Pullman either. If you slept, you sat sitting up. But anyway, and of course, we rode the rails. We had to pull off for all these high-speed passenger trains. So that's one reason it took us all 4 days to get there. But anyway, we received, or we got to Fort Lewis, Washington, or Seattle, and there was, we didn't know that, but there was a group. They formed the 339th Engineer Group, and they gathered. By that time, had units from all over the country, so they were up to 1,000 men. And they gathered us in this meeting, and the colonel from the Air Force, he gave us a little pep talk, and he said, you're going to be TDY to the Air Force. Well, which is, you know, temporary duty to the Air Force. And Brian, we never saw airmen after that. I don't know what happened to them guys. But anyway, then we shipped out of Fort Lewis, Washington, and Seattle, and I don't know, somebody's out in the Pacific, I don't know where we were, and on this UST 1110, it was a cargo ship converted to a troop ship, I guess, somewhat, and one day was going to the mess hall, a galley, I guess they call it, but anyway, I seen this guy, and it was a high school classmate of mine that actually lived up the road from our home, and he was in the Navy and I was in the Army, and imagine that, we meeting there, two classmates that had one in the Navy and one in the Army. But anyway, so I had sort of the inside thing as far as he showed me around what he could around the Navy and the ship. And anyway, we were sailing up through the Bering Strait, headed towards Point Barrow. And of course, when you go through the Bering Strait, you know, you're 22 miles wide. And I figured if we go up through the middle of it, I'm 11 miles from Russia, and that's about as close as I wanted to get. Well, anyway, beyond there, then went up through past the Arctic Circle, kept going, and then one day we saw ice huts floating around. We thought, oh yeah, what's this? But anyway, we proceeded to Point Barrow. There are parts you can get it. If you ever look at the map, they changed the name of the town or the city or whatever it is now. I don't even know what it's called now, but it's as far north as you can get without dropping over the other side. But anyway, our duties were unloading these cargo ships. They were anchored offshore a little ways. I don't know, maybe from here to the Quick Trip probably. And we had to change somewhere, get the cargo from there to the shore. And I was stationed on the shore. They hauled us, took from the main, we lived on that ship for 6 months, but anyway, they hauled us to the beach, and they had these landing craft, these Navy boys, these landing craft units that, you know, where they dropped them, when they invade, you know, they dropped the, what do you want to call it? But anyway, and they haul us to and of course they ride low in the water, and one day we were going, and the motors, engine stalled on one of these landing crafts, and they were sitting out there in the middle of that ocean, Arctic Ocean, or ice bouncing around us, and that was a little scary there for a little while. But anyway, we spent all our time unloading these ships. One big thing was fuel, diesel fuel. We had 55-gallon drums of diesel from here to Coral City, probably, piled high. Fuel was a big item, and also they had sort of a prefab panels that were, I think they used them for buildings, either whatever. They were I've gone 12, 16, 20. They were 20 feet long, these panels, and 16 feet wide and 10 feet tall. But anyway, that was, of course, there was no, we worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And there was no, well, there was no place to go because there was nothing. No vegetation, no wild animals, no nothing. Just that gravel, that tundra, I guess you want to call it. Some days we were limited to the, call it sea ice would move in, the tide would move in, and we couldn't do so much. But we were working with the, like I said, I never did see the Air Force anymore, but we were working with General Electric, with the civilian contractor. So where there was a group of 6 men from the Western Electric that we worked with, and they sort of told us where to spot things and things like that. But so in our time was up, we said, "You better get out of here," because the winter was approaching, and well, it never did get summer up there, but the winter was winter, and so we were getting ready to of course, the Army was monkeying around, and we got froze in. We were froze in the ship was froze in for different ships, but just ours at LST 1110, we were froze in for 3 days, I think it was, or a little more than that. Anyway, all the open water we had was their propellers. Well, anyway, and it came on the icebreaker. It took the icebreaker 3 days to get to us. We saw it in the horizon, you know. That I was amazed at what those icebreakers do. But that was the USS Northwind. I'll never forget seeing that thing approaching. But anyway, so we got back out of it. But it took us 3 weeks from the time we were supposed to leave till we got back to Seattle. And then we got back, then you had to go to personnel and go through all the stuff, and then I had a leave coming. I hadn't been home in 14 months, so I got a 10-day leave, and so I was going to go home and see my parents, or go home, and I had never flown. Just think, I was 22 years old and never flown on an airplane. Well, anyway, I met this other fellow in the airport there. He was from Duran, and he'd just come back from Korea. So we went to Smart. We went to the hotel or the airport lounge, and we stayed there a little too long. Well, there was a guy there. We never got our billfolds out, I should say that. But anyway, I shouldn't even be saying this, but we got on the airplane. Of course, he'd never flown either, neither had I. And that stewardess took one look at us, and she come with barf bags. But anyway, we got to Minneapolis. Anyway, he called home, and his brother, or dad, I think his brother, came to meet us. So he met us, I suppose it was maybe 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And so I stayed at Duran at his parents' home, and he took me back to Pigeon Falls the next day. And I got a 10-day leave. And I had to report back to, we thought maybe we were going to get out, be discharged, but oh no, you had too much time left. So I had to go back to 538th Engineers in Fort Knox. And there were, well, you know, that's a home of the 6th Armored Division. They run around the tanks, you know, and half tracks and all that stuff. And we had to, part of our job was sort of repairing everything they tore up. And So we did. That was basically what we did for the remainder of my tour, and I got out on the 3rd of August, and I guess I went right back to doing what I would do before I went in. I remember I helped unload hay bales on the next day after I got home. But anyway, it was quite an experience, and I guess I would all value that. I guess I threw in a punch for I've been a member of the Whitehall Hutchins Stendhal Post for 49 years, and I've tried to promote it whenever I could. And I think one of my highlights in 2016, I had the privilege of going on the Freedom Honor flight, to Washington, D.C. And of course, I think many of you people have already been to see the memorials and the Arlington Cemetery, staging of the Guard, and it was a one-day trip. My son was my guardian, and we had at that trip we had 6 World War II veterans, and I think we had 9 Vietnam, and the rest were Korean War veterans. We had 90 veterans, and plus their guardians. And I think that's one thing I always remember: the changing of the guard and seeing of the memorial. I was fascinated by that 640 acres of white crosses. Unbelievable. But I think that's my story, and I'm here to tell you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, King Gies. This year, our theme is the Korean War. I've never been stationed in Korea, but I've had a lot of friends that spent a year or 2 there on the peninsula. I've also met a lot of veterans who were there or were sent during the war. Some have told me about their experiences, and some have not. For some, the pain is still there. We have somewhere around 28,000 U.S. troops who are currently deployed in Korea. Our program today is about the Korean War to the present. We are fortunate to still have some Korean veterans living in the area. I want to thank the Preserving History class for putting this program together, and Mr. Frank Jurish. They worked hard the entire semester putting the Veterans Day theme together for us. I hope you enjoy it.
As World War II was winding down, starting in 1945, the Allies sought to establish a stable post-war order. They faced a geopolitical challenge in Korea. The United States and the Soviet Union decided to divide the country along the 38th parallel. This border, initially seen as temporary, would later play a crucial role in the outbreak of the Korean War.
Can you talk about many of the similarities between Korea and Wisconsin?
The country is actually in a similar geographical location to the United States, or to Wisconsin. So the weather was somewhat similar to what we have. Vegetation is a little bit different, but a lot of rolling hills, some mountains. The vegetation was a little different, but it was very green at the time we were there, kind of like it is here during summer. So.
In 1948, Syngman Rhee was elected the first president of the Republic of Korea. Marking the beginning of South Korea, Kim Il-sung was established in the north. The stage was set for conflict, and in January of 1950, North Korean leader Kim Il-sung proposed the liberation of South Korea to the Soviet Union. This marked a significant change in direction, revealing the North's intention to seek unification through military means. The tensions escalated further on June 25, 1950, when a massive artillery barrage from the north signaled the beginning of the Korean War.
Korea is a small country, thousands of miles away. But what is happening there is important to every American. On Sunday, June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. Free nations must be on their guard, more than ever before, against this kind of sneak attack. We are united in detesting communist slavery. We know that the cost of freedom is high, but we are determined to preserve our freedom no matter what the cost.
North Koreans force known as the Northern Korean People's Army, or NKPA, crossed the border and invaded South Korea. The North, with approximately 135,000 men, faced the Republic of Korea's army, consisting of 98,000 soldiers.
Two days later, the United States under President Harry Truman responded swiftly. In a historic move, Truman committed American forces to the conflict, though he did it by going through the United Nations. The United States viewed this Korean peace action as a critical test of containment as determined by the Truman Doctrine against the spread of communism. At this point in June 1950, North Korean forces captured Seoul, the capital of South Korea. This marked a significant blow to the South Korean and its allies. The war escalated further on July 5, 1950, with the Battle of Busan, the first engagement between the United States and North Korea during the Korean War. Now, the United Nations forces, with the United States taking the lead, embarked on a mission to combat the North Korean army invasion of South Korea head-on. Under the command of General Douglas MacArthur, a highly respected and experienced military leader, the United Nations forces launched a counteroffensive to push the North Korean army back across the 38th parallel. It started after September of 1950. The initial North Korean attack drove United States command forces to a narrow perimeter in the southern tip of the peninsula. After the front stabilized at Busan perimeter, General MacArthur's strategic brilliance and decisive leadership played a pivotal role in the success of this campaign. His bold and innovative military tactics, including the daring amphibious landing in Incheon in September, helped not only halt the North Korean advance, but also push them back. This achievement was a turning point in the conflict as it allowed the United Nations forces to regain the initiative. The ultimate goal of the United Nations forces was to liberate the South Korean part of the peninsula from the North Korean invasion, and that was accomplished. However, the conflict progressed. The objective became more complex. The United Nations offensive continued north at a rapid pace. When the United Nations approached the border with China, it triggered the intervention of the Chinese forces in support of North Korea. The Chinese army came in waves on November 25, 1950. Nearly 200,000 Chinese soldiers poured across the Yalu River and entered the fight.
By December 1950, the Chinese soldiers pushed the UN forces into a full retreat back to the south below the 38th parallel. It was a hard and cold winter of falling back for the UN forces. The situation became more dire on April 22, 1951. The Battle of Incheon River unfolded as a massive Chinese attack fell on the United Nations line. This significant offensive intervention by China further added to the already intense fighting. As UN forces started to stop the northern offensive, one of the most notable battles of the Korean War occurred at Heartbreak Ridge, fought between September 13th and October 15th, 1951. This month-long battle aimed to retake Heartbreak Ridge, a strategically important location. The battle was desperately fought with casualties on both sides. Even with these fierce battles, the forces were equalized and a strategic and political stalemate settled in like a fog. On July 27, 1953, representatives from the United Nations Command, South Korea, North Korea, and China convened to establish a ceasefire, bringing an end to the active military conflict. However, despite the cessation of hostilities and the armistice, a formal peace treaty was never signed, leaving the Korean Peninsula in a fragile armistice. The demilitarized zone near the 30th parallel was established as a shield between North and South Korea and remains heavily fortified and guarded to this day, with North Korea and South Korea existing as separate states, and the conflict's unresolved status making it one of the world's most stubborn geopolitical issues. Korea, the legacy of the war still lives on, commemorated through memorials and remembrances. In America, the war became nicknamed the Forgotten War. Cold War tensions shifted the nation's attention to the space race, the race for the hydrogen bomb, missiles in Cuba, and the Vietnam War. Through all of that, the standoff in Korea
My first
never
duty station
ended.
was Okinawa, Japan. During that time in Okinawa, I also spent 3 months in Korea. I was stationed in several different places. Our main base was basically out in the middle of nowhere, where we built our tent city. But we did helicopter support operations, which is the hooking up the external motors to helicopters. We did have some joint operations with the South Korean Army and Marines. I was one of the few that did get a chance to take a trip to the DMZ, which was very interesting. Because there's the DMZ, and then there's an area outside of that called the CCL, I think it's called, Civilian Control Zone, Panmunjom on the South Korean side. There's the one small village that houses, basically, they call them military police. They're the only military that can actually be in the DMZ. Very strict protocols when we got on the bus for the tour.
As of 2023, there are 28,000 U.S. service members stationed on the Korean Peninsula, ready in case conflict returns. However, the hope for lasting peace remains an aspiration, reminding us of the importance of foreign affairs and mutual understanding in a world striving for unity and stability.
For now it's goodbye, Maria. I'm off to Korea, far across the sea. It's the same old story. It's up to Old Glory to win another fight for liberty. So keep the home fires burning, and it won't be long until I'll be returning. Goodbye, Maria, though I'm off to Korea. In my heart you'll always be. It wasn't long ago that we met in Italy. I was a G.I. Joe. take charge of your detail. While they are getting positioned, I would like the Preserving History class to stand up and be recognized. Please stand for the Honor Guard rifle salute and taps being played by the high school sophomore Deacon Stagg. Please be seated. For our brave soldiers, sailors, coasties, Marines, and airmen who have served and who have sacrificed for their country and have changed the course of America for the better, I want to thank all the veterans that have kept our nation free for over 247 years. God bless America. Now, the community may join in of singing God Bless America, led by Kennedy Grand and Addison Herman. Please stand while we retire the colors. Honor Guard, retire the colors. This concludes our 2023 Veterans Day program. Veterans, please hang around at the end of the ceremony. We want to take a picture of all the veterans up front. So if the veterans can move up front. Classes. Let's see, we'll go in order of choir first. Head out. Please do so in an orderly fashion, please. Band follow. Freshmen. Sophomore. Junior. And last, the mighty seniors. Thank you for attending. Veterans up front, please.